Four Knights of the Apocalypse Chapter 239 is officially out, and we got basically what could be the game changer in actually dealing with Kath. We got a very valuable item that will change the game for the story. We got to see what's going on with Kath as well. We got Gawain and Merlin having their mother-daughter moment, and Percival gets some bit of extra closure for his grandfather in a really nice way. We also get to see a bit of what's going on in Leonis, and Arthur is still incredibly down and depressed, so we got a lot to look into. Before we jump into things, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to see me outside this channel, go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about American comic books. It's a passion project of mine. I have a couple things planned for that channel as well, so I really appreciate if you guys go and check it out whenever you get the chance. Link in the description down below and in the title card as well. Now then, let's jump straight into Chapter 239 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled The Blood of Atonement. And this also has a suicide warning in the beginning of this chapter at the very top as well, just like the previous chapter. So if any of you are having a hard time or having these thoughts and feelings, go and check the number provided in the website. It is very important that you talk to people as well. You don't have to go through any of this alone. Now then, let's jump right into the chapter. Cover image is of King Arthur. And this one, he does look a lot more like he is, 30. So, not too bad of an image. But we begin from the end of the previous chapter where Arthur stabbed himself in the chest with his own knife. We see the aftermath as his blood just starts gushing out from his chest. Gawain is curious what's going on, but Merlin ends up twisting her finger as Percival and Tristan end up going to see what's going on with Arthur and why he do this. But then they notice his blood begins to pool around and starts floating in the air, pooling around as if it were in a cup. Arthur is out of breath and begins to fall unconscious as Lancelot has a very blank look on his face. Arthur begins to pass out as he's continuously bleeding, but Tristan and Percival immediately go to give him some aid. Percival tells Tristan to heal his wound, while Tristan tells Percival to keep his life spare within his body. They go to preserve Arthur and make sure that his body isn't done and he doesn't die from his own self-inflicted wounds. Obviously, Lancelot is still not having any reaction to this, but Merlin then walks up and then says, with the pool of blood that is now in one singular spot, saying that they may try to take Arthur's chaotic force, but only he can be its true vessel. His blood rules over the chaos, never being seduced by it. As she then calls out, Holy Grail. As in an instant, around the pool of blood, a cup of gold and jewelry begins to form. And this is the Holy Grail. And, just like we all think, this might actually be the branching off point for the potential future of the Knights of the Holy Grail that we saw previously, with them being the future children of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. It has been a little bit since we've seen them last, but now we have the Holy Grail that we believe that they are named after. Honestly, really damn cool that we got this, and also some really interesting pieces of, knowledge about Arthur's powers. Despite Kath being able to control the power of chaos, it pretty much is a confirmation that even though Kath took the power of chaos, he did have to take some of Arthur, potentially his body, in order for him to control chaos. But chaos itself cannot be fully taken away from Arthur or controlled completely, as his blood is the true vessel of chaos. Arthur himself is the true vessel of the power of chaos, and so his power cannot be taken from him, essentially. As his blood could also be seen as just the embodiment of the power of chaos made into a physical state, since, blood is the literal life of the body, and it's infused with magic power. Arthur is the king of chaos. His blood is basically solidified magic power, if we want to go by that. Merlin then presents the Holy Grail to Gawain, saying that they should give this to Dubs and have them reforge their weapons using the blood within the Holy Grail, as that should be enough quantity of Arthur's blood. As Gawain is confused by this, Arthur explains that a weapon infused with his blood will cancel out all chaos-driven protection. It will enable them to fully kill Kath, as he says that this is all he can do with no intention of clinging to life. Percival's like, dude, why'd you do it like this? You could have died for all you knew. And obviously, the suicide warning from last chapter and this chapter fully makes sense because Arthur fully intended to die in this instance. Because he doesn't view himself as worthy of his powers and just thinks that things will be better off if he were gone. So yeah, Arthur has been through a lot, and this is where his mental state has deteriorated too. But now we get full-on confirmation that we're going to get upgraded versions of the sacred treasures for everybody involved. Gawain's sword, Percival's sword, Tristan's probably going to get brand new swords now, and perhaps the dragon handle will get reforged maybe. And Lancelot will finally get his own weapon, just like in the previous future visions of Guinevere, showcasing Lancelot with a spear. That probably is what his sacred treasure is going to be. A sacred spear forged using the chaos-infused blood of Arthur himself. And I'm glad that they actually now have the knowledge to know that power, like weapons forged from chaos, will nullify the protections and regeneration abilities of the power of chaos. So the Sins, while they defeated Cath and pushed him back, exhausting a lot of his power, he couldn't be killed. But now, once the four knights have dubs, the greatest craftsmen in history, make powerful sacred treasures that will enhance their strength, it will allow them to bypass the protection that Cath has so that he can actually be killed. So we got what we need to finish off the cat. Whether it ends up being that simple, it's definitely not going to be, and I'm still curious to see where Naka's going with the story at this point, with how things have been progressing thus far. But back to the chapter, after Arthur says, basically dying and giving them the means that beat Cath is all he could do without any real need of wanting to live anymore, Tristan just goes all Elizabeth mode and just says, "None of that, alright? A king can't act carelessly. It's the job of a king to keep his nation safe along with the people that support it." And Tristan, acting like an actual ruler and knowing what he learned from his mother, I do kind of like how Arthur just has a slight smile saying, "You certainly do resemble those two. Thank you. Is that a quote from your father or something?" But Tristan's like, "Oh yeah, no, nothing like that. That's just more of a guide of what not to do. My dad suggests be like, oh, look what Meliodas does. Do the exact opposite." And I find that hilarious. Tristan respects his father, but probably doesn't view his father as an actual kingly guy, which Meliodas rarely ever acts like it, and I find that hilarious. But then we get another really nice and human moment with Percival and Arthur, as Percival asks Arthur point blank about his grandfather, the Holy Knight Vargas, and asks Arthur if he still sees him as a traitor, as Arthur realizes that it really is Percival, and says with actual regret that the only traitor here is him, as he talks about Vargas, saying that you can never find a holy knight as splendid as he. He tried to protect you, his grandson, despite his concerns about me. He never hesitated to dedicate himself to the plight of others, a true holy knight all the way, as we get a nice flashback image of Vargas in his prime, holding an infant Percival. And Percival agrees as he begins to tear from his eyes. It's a nice, sweet scene, as we now know that Vargas' soul is basically, gone. It's seeming thanks to the chaosified form of World Dane during the end of the festival arc, as he sacrificed his literal soul to save Percival. So this is a nice bit of closure, because the first thing that Percival heard about his grandfather's past as a holy knight, when Ironside came to kill him, was that Vargas was a traitor. And now this is a very nice closing of the book. Because now, this also confirms that at the time when Vargas was considered a traitor, it was most likely around the time when Arthur was beginning to succumb to Cath's influence. So we potentially have a decent point where Merlin had to split Arthur and Cath. Because for Arthur to remember Vargas leaving with Percival, despite, having his concerns over Arthur's mentality at the time, that shows how much of a pure heart Vargas is and how much of a good person he was, and it's really nice, and it shows just how much respect Arthur has had for Vargas all these years, even now. And that is definitely a weight off Percival's shoulders, and to hear that from someone that his grandfather previously served and respected more than anybody else. I love it. As we see this scene play out, Gawain looks on and just says, "So this is the original King Arthur, huh?" As yeah, this was a nice look at Arthur's real personality and who he truly is, despite all the horrible things that have happened. Merlin tells Gawain that it moves her just as much seeing you for the first time in 18 years. Obviously, seeing Gawain for the first time with her own eyes in so long. Gawain says, don't be hyperbolic, you were there for me this whole time. But Merlin actually says motherly shit for once, which I am completely and utterly shocked by, because Merlin has some weird emotional stuff and how she deals with other people. So like this genuinely shocked me and like took me aback for a minute with how like, I guess motherly she's acting with Gawain in this instance. She says, no, I mean it. Seeing you with my own eyes is so different from through the eyes of a golem. And we see a bit of Gawain blushing from behind. We don't see her face yet. Saying that Gawain truly has grown, hasn't she? As Merlin says, would you mind giving your mother a better look at your face? And Gawain's trying to brush it off, still facing away from Merlin, saying, oh come on, I can't show only you. I know that Dad'll be all pouty about it later. And so she tries to like push it back a little bit. I like how she's using Escanor as an excuse. And I do kind of see Escanor being all like, jealous that Merlin got to see their daughter through their own eyes instead of through like some golem thing. Because like, it's definitely a different experience considering that Escanor is like literally stuck with his spirit in a golem and not his actual living body in his own real eyes. But Merlin calls out Gawain's name. She turns around with tears in her eyes. Merlin smiles at her, and Gawain flies over to her mother and gives her a massive hug. And I'm not gonna lie, this was nice. And the fact that Merlin is actually, acting more motherly and a lot more sincere in this instance shows that she has in some way actually grown as a person and a character, which I can very much appreciate. Especially considering I literally just uploaded, the day before this chapter released, a video about how Merlin is just the one responsible for every horrible thing that's happened in this entire goddamn manga. But hey, that's besides the point. She grew, people. She actually had some development between both series. So let's go. But we then get a quick passage of time, most likely to the point where Arthur's wounds have healed. As Arthur says, perhaps I wanted to leave my fate in the hands of others. Who can say whether there's any value to me living on? If you abandoned me and I died, I'm sure that'd simply be fate as well. But you didn't. You saved someone like me. So thank you. I intend to do whatever I am still capable of doing. As Percival and Tristan are more than happy to get Arthur's help at this point, with Gawain and Merlin smiling onwards. But Lancelot, looking like the edgelord that he is, says, yeah, well, I didn't come here to rescue you, and I ain't about to forgive you either, as he walks away from everybody else in pure detailed shadow. Arthur Solemn does understand why Lancelot does this. He says, fine, that's alright too. As Lancelot heads outside, while everyone else is going to stay inside with Arthur and Merlin for a bit. As Lancelot thinks back to his last conversation with Guinevere, just tearfully saying about, meeting someone else's wife. I knew this was going to happen, but I truly wish I could have been your bride. So this is definitely more so Lancelot holding a grudge towards Arthur, because despite him literally having no real fault for all the horrible shit that's happened to everyone, especially Guinevere, and it being mainly Kath, he still has to hold that towards Arthur, or at least he needs someone to blame in this instance, because that's been his conduit for his literal hatred at this point, until we pointed towards Kath. So he definitely has some complex feelings that he probably needs to work out on his own in regards to Arthur and everything that has happened. So this is definitely going to be an interesting dynamic, because we do know from one of Guinevere's visions that Lancelot will swear loyalty to the king, so Arthur, obviously. So there's definitely going to be a moment where Arthur and Lancelot reconcile, and Lancelot just fully gives up that hatred that he has misplaced towards Arthur and sees him for the true kind guy that he is, who basically got used for a good chunk of his life and was put in a horrible situation. And he's just as much a victim as anybody else. But we then cut away from the Four Knights as we cut back to Leonis as it's being rebuilt. Now I gotta say this part of the chapter is definitely the least detailed, most likely because Nakba ran out of time to put a lot of detail into these pages for the actual chapter release, so this will probably get fixed up in the full-on volume release. We see everybody fixing up the kingdom as the king of Cameliard, Guinevere's father, thanks Gil Thunder and everybody involving saving and helping bring back and protecting the people of Camelot who were brought back to Britannia, saying that especially them, the royal family of Cameliard and all their citizens, will sing the praises of the king and queen of Leonis and the 7 deadly sins for generations. And so he would very much like to give his thanks to Meliodas and Elizabeth themselves. But Gil Thunder, knowing very well the situation that's going on with Elizabeth basically in a brain-dead coma, and Meliodas just like solemnly, despairingly looking at her body, just says the king has to rest for a while now, so it's probably not possible. Which Guinevere's father says, no need to force it at all, no worries, just tell him to get as much rest as he needs for him. With Gil Thunder saying, well, with one quick panel of Guinevere, which really has the most detail of any other characters, which makes sense, she's probably the most important character in this group shot, as she looks solemnly at the two of them talking. We then cut to a carriage in the outskirts of Leonis, as 2 little girls are bringing food to some cat that they found, as they're trying to be quiet as they don't want their father to realize that, as he really hates cats. As you get a peek at inside their carriage, or where they're hiding the cat, with a little white and red tail. The 2 of them end up just going to check on the cat as they see their father's shoes on the ground. Thinking that the cat just dragged it out to make room, they look into the carriage and they see that the cat that they put inside was Cath the whole time, back to his original weakened cat head form, as he is revealed to have eaten their father and is nibbling on his severed fingers, ending the chapter. Oh boy, that was a good chapter. So, 1, we get some nice motherly moments between Gawain and her mother, with them reconciling, showing like actual like emotional growth for Merlin when it comes to at least her daughter in this instance. Percival gets actual closure for his grandfather and his past with his relationship with King Arthur. At least 3 of the 4 knights end up seeing who Arthur truly is and his true personality and why people would want to follow him. But Lancelot's still holding on to that resentment towards him for everything that has put everybody through, and especially Guinevere. So he is not so easy to forgive Arthur in this instance. We also finally get the titular Holy Grail of the Holy Grail Knights, seemingly, which might be the turning point into what their potential future would be. And we'll eventually get the confrontation between the Knights of the Holy Grail and the 4 Knights, probably within the next couple of chapters, as now we are going to have Dubs reforge all 4 Knights' weapons and upgrade them with Arthur's blood, as due to Arthur's blood being an absolute force when it comes to chaos, they will be able to bypass Cath's protection and usage of chaos to actually deal lasting damage and kill him. And I cannot wait for that and what their weapons will inevitably look like. And lastly, we have Cath, revealed at the end of the chapter, still in Leonis lying low, just eating a random merchant guy for all we know, as his daughters thought he was just a normal cat, in a pretty simplistic and horrifying image, as generally it feels like Cath is trying to regain his power. Initially, I thought Cath was going to just teleport himself back to Camelot with the little power he had left, but no, it seemed like the fight with the Sins and Hawk basically left him relatively super weakened, and so now he's just trying to regain his strength most likely. So we're definitely going to get a moment with where Cath is going to have to regain as much power as possible, and now that he knows where Merlin is, he'll go and try and find Arthur. So that's going to be an interesting thing to go about. And I have an interesting idea for a video coming up next, so look forward to that. But this was an awesome chapter, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And my god, I am hyped as hell. I have no idea where the story is going at this point, and while this does concern me to an extent, I am also incredibly excited for what Nakba has in store for us going forward. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And once again, for me, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and shows you guys know the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. We are over 38,000 subscribers strong, and we are aiming for that 50,000 subscriber mark before the end of the year. We have a little over 6 months left, so let's aim for it. And if you want to support the channel more directly, go and check my Patreon, link in the description down below. I'm going to be starting to upload these never before seen limbo videos of stuff that I haven't uploaded yet or don't know if I ever will on the channel. So look forward to that. And that also directly helps the channel as well to help me make more videos outside the chapter reviews at higher quality. So I really appreciate you guys go check it out. But if you can't, no worries. Just subscribe, share the video, like, and view it all the way through. That helps more than enough. With all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.